Uh, 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 uh.
Hello! Welcome back to part 3 of my Crabtrees Corner build. In this video we will be making and installing the windows. First up, let's install the normal flat windows. And then we'll tackle the bay windows. This will give me a bit of time to think about how we'll do it. The windows of Crabtrees Corner are dark green frames with a white inner frame. For the dark green, I'm using the closest green I could find in my paper stash. It's a washi origami paper, so it's a little bit soft and a bit textured on one side. Not ideal for crisp lines, but it'll do. I just have to be super careful not to handle it too much, as I don't want to fray the edges. Ideally, if I had the Strathmore Tone Gray in many colours, I'd be set for making for life. When choosing paper for my builds, I choose based on thickness first, then texture, then colour of what I'm trying to make. So for example, the real window frame is pretty thin compared to the wall of the facade, so I need to pick a piece of paper that has the same thickness proportionally to the walls on my build. I'm not too pedantic about the scaling down of these elements, so I don't go and actually measure it out with a ruler and do the maths. As long as it looks about right, it's all good to go. And then there's texture and colour, which influences the type of paper I pick. If I can find the similar texture and colour amongst my papers, I'll definitely use it. But if I'm out of luck, I then create the desired texture and colours with various tools and paints and pencils. But I'm pretty lucky with my stash of papers. Having been an avid origami enthusiast since I was a kid, I have a lot of different kinds of papers. So back to these windows. I love making windows this way. I build up the frame sticking directly onto the back side of the facade. In this technique, I don't have to measure the strips exactly and all overhangs are hidden from view. There's a bit of tedious sticking and then checking and adjusting with every frame bit you lay down, but the result is very detailed frame that didn't take too much effort. So the white bits that I'm sticking to the inner frame is made of white printer paper in, I think it's 80 GSM or maybe 70 GSM. I really should check. I think it is 70 GSM. Oh, and I'm using Selleys Aquadear PVA wood glue. The tool I'm using to apply glue is a needlepoint tool. I actually got it from a Sculpey tool set. The link is in the description below. And with the bit of leftover glue on the tip, I can pick up the frame bit without having to change to tweezers. For the really tiny bits of the frame, I'm only applying glue on each end of the bit to hold it in place. Okay, now for the bay window. Angles and working with plastic isn't my favourite thing. I mean, once it's done, bay windows offer such an awesome detail to any building, but the angles mean I have to math, and math is hard, and that's why I tend to draw it out on graph paper and fold up a piece of paper to work it out in physical space. And then there's the plastic. I use tacky glue to adhere paper onto plastic, which works really well, but clear plastic means you have to be super neat and careful not to scratch the surface as you're working with it. And after a few tests with scrap bits of paper, I have a template I was happy with. To make things a bit easier, I score all the fold lines and glue lines onto each plastic piece. The plastic I'm using is acetate, but you can use any thin plastics you have around the house, from cake boxes or packaging. I often see plastics when I'm out and about and think that's a good piece of plastic. But I've learned not to bring everything home, as I've quickly learned that my use of plastic is tiny compared to the rate I collect them. And after scoring the lines, I'm bending the corners of the window. For the bay windows, we'll apply the window frames directly onto the plastic. So we are working kind of backwards this time, applying the white printer paper first and then the green washi paper last. Here I'm making the corner frame bits by scoring a line onto the white printer paper and then folding it over to then cut the thin folded piece off. This technique is much easier than cutting a thin piece of paper and then trying to fold it in half. To get super thin, crisp strips, I'm cutting the white printer paper by chopping down on the paper instead of slicing it. The glue I'm using to stick the paper to the plastic is Holbein tacky craft glue. I'm using a bit of 1.2mm box board for some structural support. Oh, I keep on forgetting about the camera position. Sorry about that. And as we worked before, I'm using a couple of dots of glue to hold the tiny pieces of the frame in place. I don't want to use too much glue for these bits, as I don't want them to become too soft and mushy. And to really make sure the plastic doesn't peel off, I've cut this bit of the window frame a lot bigger than needed, so I can then stick the overhang onto the box board. Now on goes the green washi paper strips. I'm just trimming the edges to make it look a little bit neater, but this step is optional as it's going to be hidden behind the wall anyway, but it does look heaps neater. Under the bay windows is a round belly shaped bit. I'm not sure what it's called, but it kind of looks like a belly or a bottom of a cocoon. I'm creating this belly with stacked layers of 1.2mm boxboard. This definitely could have been done with one thick layer of boxboard, but the 1.2mm boxboard was in reach, so I thought it would be easier to carve into thinner layers of board instead of one thick piece. I'm using a file to round out the belly piece. To soften up the edges a bit more, I'm applying some PVA glue to form a skin on it and fill any gaps between the layers. Okay, I've jumped back onto the top facade details now and creating the textures found on the columns of the facade. Are you ready for some ASMR time? Please enjoy or skip to the next chapter if you don't like eating sounds. Thanks for watching my mini mukbang. Before we stick the bay windows in, we'll paint the facade and apply the last bit of facade details. I'm using Holbein gouache to paint the facade. I love gouache. Not only does it dry matte with a slight grainy texture to it, I can make up batches of the colour I need and then re-wet the dried paint for later use. Texture is really important in getting the likeness of a thing you're trying to replicate. So when you're studying the building or object, make sure you take note of the surface and try to replicate it in your miniature. I always seem to forget about the little vents in the facade, so I'm always cutting them out awkwardly towards the end of the building. It works, but it would have been easier if I cut these out before I stuck everything on. But that's okay, it's a part of the fun. To create the stucco look at the top of the facade, I'm using the end of a round file to stab little dents into the surface. I think one of the dogs needs a bit of attention. For the very top of the facade, I've stuck together about 4 layers of Strathmore Tone Gray paper to get the thickness I need. There's 2 thick steps on this top ledge. So the first layer will be a strip that's just a whisper wider than the wall, and then the next layer is wider than that. I'm using the needlepoint tool to round out the layered strip. This will be the little dimple details at the top of the facade. To fill the gap, I'm using a rolled up piece of paper. This is another little bit of rolled piece of paper, and this will finish off the very top detail. Off screen, I made the roof for the bay window out of Strathmore Tone Gray paper. The little tiles are made by scoring the paper, cutting it into strips and then sticking them down in an overlapping pattern. I am so sorry. I thought I had footage of this, but I don't. Sorry. But let me know in the comments if you'd like me to make a separate video on how to make it. I'm using AK Wolverine PVA glue to stick the bay windows onto the facade because it's super thick, so it fills up any gaps and dries really fast. It's so satisfying when all the pieces fit together. To finish off the back of the window, I'm going to stick down the edges of the window with another bit of paper. This makes it a bit neater and ensures the bay window will stay put. At this stage I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the inside of the building, so I thought I'd better do a neat job of it just in case. And here is the last corner window. And that's it for this making session. Thank you so much for watching and joining me on this making journey. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment below if you have any questions about the making process. You can support me and this channel on Patreon, and you can also find me on Instagram. See you in the next video where we will finish Crabtrees Corner. Thank you. Bye.